The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And good morning and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community and around the world. Well, first up, Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. delivered his fourth annual State of the Borough address yesterday. We'll break down some of the most important issues raised in the Borough President's speech. And we'll find out what happened today, February 20th, in Black History. We'll take a special look back. Plus, we'll sit down with an organization that is providing families with a road to success in order to remain strong. And we'll hear what one elected official is doing to save our schools and improve our Bronx community. And finally, February is American Heart Month. We'll get you some tips on how to remain healthy. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Because right now, we're officially open. Bronxites, I'm your host, Darren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, February 20th, 2013. And of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We do want to hear from you, so throughout the course of the show, we encourage you to tweet us at BronxNet TV. And of course, we will air what you have to say throughout the program, and we'll let our viewers know exactly what's on your mind. Well, starting things off here in the borough of the Bronx, Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. delivered his annual State of the Borough address at James Monroe High School yesterday, outlining many of his recent accomplishments, as well as a bold agenda of issues he plans to tackle in the upcoming year. The speech highlighted the steps that the new Bronx has taken towards a better future, including efforts to improve public education, bringing Metro North to the East Bronx, the creation of thousands of new jobs, a Marriott hotel coming to the Bronx, and the borough's efforts towards green renovation. Perhaps what hit home the hardest was the borough president's stance on the need for gun control.
Yes, the Bronx has improved and violent crime has dropped dramatically. However, we do not live in a vacuum. The national conversation on gun control needs to address the gun culture around gun ownership. Why does any Bronxite, in fact, any American, feel the need to even own a gun? It doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you that someone who has been convicted of a violent misdemeanor is eligible to own a gun? Why do the youth of our city think that a gun can solve their problems? Maybe, just maybe, what we need to do is to have these youth visit a morgue to see exactly what is the trajectory that this leads to. We must work with our partners in government at all levels to make sure that the president's plan to require criminal background checks for all gun sales becomes law. We must support micro-stamping, allowing police to match ammunition used in crimes to the guns that they were fired from. It is also time to limit the number of guns and the amount of ammunition an individual can purchase at any given time, and to require a drug test to get a gun license. I also believe that solving the gun problem goes hand in hand with lowering our recidivism rates in our borough and in our city. Statistics show us that we have a significant population of repeat offenders. My office is dealing with this issue on two fronts. I say this because in June, we received funding from the State Department of Criminal Justice Services to implement the first ever Bronx Reentry Task Force. As a result of our advocacy, the Fulton Correctional Facility will be transformed into a unique and comprehensive one-stop shop for services for those released from prison. Through these initiatives, we will help these individuals lead a productive life and do our best to keep them from returning back to prison. We must also ensure that those who engage in gun violence are not allowed to escape the spotlight. That is why today I propose, listen closely now, a new gun crime registry. This registry will have reporting requirements similar to those as sex offenders. The registry would be made available online, and it would require perpetrators of gun violence to keep updated records with the police regarding their living and employment arrangements. I don't know about you, but I believe that law-abiding citizens ought to know who among us are responsible for gun violence, and this initiative will do exactly that.
Well, now for further coverage of the speech, you can continue, I should say, to tune in throughout the week here at BronxNet Television, and we will bring you the full speech of the borough president's State of the Borough address. Well, moving along, February is Black History Month, and in the year 1895, Frederick Douglass passed away. Douglass was the leading black spokesperson for almost 50 years, as well as a major abolitionist, lecturer and editor. In 1900, J.F. Pickering invented the first blimp to be powered by electric motor and have directional controls. He received a patent for creation of this airship. And in 1927, Sidney Poitier, an African-American-born Bohemian actor, director, author, as well as diplomat, became the first black person to win an Academy Award for the Best Actor role for his role in Lilies of the Field. And that was your Today in Black History, and we bring it to you every Wednesday here on Open. Now, we do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, there'll be more Open when we return, including an elected official's desire to improve the educational system here in our borough. We'll return right after this.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
There is also a very attractive extended warranty option that includes free service and parts for the next 5 years. But there's no need for you to get that. You failed to get the test you needed at the doctor that would have detected disease early enough where it could have been treated. So you won't be around in 2 years to see him grow up, which means the warranty would be useless. Okay, sign here, please.
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes. The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
You know, when I was younger, man, my brother was the one who really took care of me, man.
Is that right?
Hey, he'd wake me up in the morning, get me ready for school, take a shower, make me some breakfast.
Where your brother at now?
Oh, you know, all right. I get lonely, nobody to talk to. I felt like quitting school. He looked at my dad in my eye, he told me, if not for me, do it for him.
Give Josh and our class of 08 the boost they need to graduate. Join us at boostup.org.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool. Really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately. Because time lost is brain lost.
Despite an economic downturn, Councilman Oliver Coppell has continuously worked to improve his district and New York City. Recently, with many Bronx schools at the risk of closing, he has fought to keep these schools alive. He's here now today to share more about his efforts to better the community, and we welcome now Councilman Oliver Coppell to the studio. Good morning. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Before we talk about the schools and the educational system, I want to go back. We heard yesterday the borough president's State of the Borough address. You were in attendance.
I was there, yes.
Your thoughts on the borough president's address?
Well, I thought, first of all, I thought he presented very well. I think that there are a lot of important, exciting things happening in the Bronx, and he talked about those things like the new Marriott Hotel that they're building over in the East Bronx. He talked about bringing jobs to the Bronx. Fresh Direct is coming to the Bronx. A number of other new jobs are being created in my district, which is the Northwest Bronx. We have 2 shopping centers. Small shopping centers are growing up, one on 230th Street and Broadway and one on 238th Street in Broadway. Both are under construction and are very good things. And he also mentioned new housing that's going up. So the Bronx is moving in a positive direction, and I think he reflected that. He also had some very interesting ideas. I thought particularly his ideas on gun control, which I fully support, were important, even though our crime rate has gone down. And he pointed out something that I wasn't even aware of, and that is how much the crime rate has declined in the Bronx. Even though it's still too high, it's a fraction of what it was a decade ago.
And you've been around on the political landscape for a while now.
Very long
time.
Yeah.
But we've heard the old adage before, the Bronx is burning, but now...
Oh, no. That's a long time ago.
Right. And you look now and you say the Bronx is booming. What is, when you look at the landscape of what's going on right about now, what can you say is probably the sharpest thing that we've got going for our borough?
Well, I think the most important thing is the economic development, is the fact that we're building new stores, new even manufacturing facilities, distribution facilities. I think that's the most exciting thing, that the Bronx is really a dynamic, growing economy. And in the end, that's going to mean jobs for the people of the Bronx, which of course is desperately needed because the Bronx still has the highest unemployment rate of any of the counties in the city.
Well, a little closer to home for you, there's some particular issues that you're dealing with here, because we're talking about the issue of education. As we started off in this segment, we talked about DeWitt Clinton High School. Well, we didn't talk about it, but it is the forefront. DeWitt Clinton High School. And we've heard before the possibility of the school closing. Now there's a new proposal on the table. Why don't you enlighten us, first of all, as to what the new proposal would be?
Well, first let me say that DeWitt Clinton has a wonderful history. A lot of very impressive graduates, provided a very good education to generations and generations of students. It has a reputation that goes far and wide, and it's in my council district, and I want to see Clinton survive. And there was a threat to close Clinton. The Department of Education was talking about that a few months ago. There was a big rally at the school, which is located not far from where we are now, and I spoke at that rally, and many, many people came out, including graduates of Clinton, alumni came out, students came out. It was a very impressive turnout, and the Department of Education finally decided, no, we're not going to close the school. You know, they've had a program for the last number of years to close schools, which doesn't mean they abandon the building. It means that a new school comes into the building, the old school is phased out, new school takes over with new teachers, new administrators, and so on. Well, there was a proposal to do that at Clinton, but because of the strong support that people gave to maintaining Clinton, that was not accepted, at least not for the moment. But after we thought we had saved Clinton, we heard just a few weeks ago that the Department of Education now wants to establish 2 small schools in the Clinton building, reducing the size of Clinton itself and putting in these 2 new schools. I'm opposed to that, because what we've seen happen, and the most dramatic instance that I've seen was at Kennedy High School. When you start putting these small schools in, they get all the attention, they get the preferred students, and the old school, it becomes something of a dumping ground, or something of a last reserve or last resort. Now, we have to give education to everybody, and I want to, but you want to have a broad range of students. You don't want to have only the struggling students, only the ones who need the most help in the school, because then the school gets a bad reputation. And what happened at Kennedy was they put new small schools in the Kennedy building. Gradually, those small schools prospered, and the old Kennedy High School withered. And now Kennedy High School is going out altogether, and the whole building's filled with small schools. I don't want that to happen at Clinton.
And your fear is that that'll happen at DeWitt Clinton. Now, let's talk about what happens from here. Public hearing?
Yes. Tomorrow there's going to be a public hearing, and I'm going to be there. And then there's going to be a hearing of the, I think it's called the Panel of Educational Priorities, or it's a citywide panel that's going to make the decision as to whether these two schools will go into Clinton. I hope not. I've contacted the Chancellor's office, Chancellor Walcott. I've begged them not to do this. I don't know whether I'll succeed, but I think putting small schools in the building is a mistake.
What message can you send right now to Bronx residents who have students at DeWitt Clinton and parents who are really concerned about this whole program? What message do you send to them right now?
Well, what I would send to them is that Clinton, even though they've had problems, it's still a very fine school. It has a program called the Macy program, which is an honors program, and the kids who go there get a fine education and get admitted to some of the best colleges in the country. So what I say to parents is, think of Clinton as a really good choice for your son or your daughter. You know, it's a co-ed school now. Used to be all boys, but it's co-ed school now. I say, don't give up on DeWitt Clinton High School.
Public hearings, we hear about them all the time, and people have a lot to say so. How effective are they?
Well, I think the hearing that we had on Clinton, I guess it was end of last year, I don't remember exact day, it was in November or December. I think the fact that hundreds and hundreds of people came out to protest closing Clinton had an effect on the Department of Education. Public hearings do make a difference. They don't always succeed, but they do make a difference.
So we want to encourage Bronxites, if you want to go and attend the public hearing, it is tomorrow. What time?
At Clinton High School, yes, in the evening. I think it starts at 6 or 7, I'm not sure. But at Clinton High School, right over here, off Marshallou Parkway.
At the beginning of the segment, we talked a lot about the economic downturn and talked about how, you know, the cities and counties are really trying to deal with how this economic downturn is affecting. One area that always gets affected is the issue of senior citizens and services. And I know you've been a sharp advocate for seniors. How do you look at this upcoming budget and how it's going to affect seniors, particularly in your area? Because a lot of them call into our show and have a lot to say about, they're worried about services.
Well, I think that this year the city budget looks a little brighter. It isn't that we're rolling in dough, so to speak. But I don't see any senior citizen center having to close. And, you know, they are trying to improve the centers. The mayor does have a program to try and enhance the services of the senior centers. And the only senior centers that closed over the last years are the ones that were really underutilized. The ones in my district, every one of the senior centers in my district has remained open, even though there were threats to close some of them a few years ago. I don't think that seniors should be overly concerned. I think that, as I said before, our city budget, though it's not, an enormously full budget, still it looks like most of the basic services will be preserved.
You sit on a variety of different committees down
I
at
do.
City Hall, and one of those is mental health.
Yes.
Given the fact of what we're hearing coming out of the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting and things like that, how is mental health being reviewed by elected officials down at City Hall?
Well, I'm the chairman of the Mental Health Committee, and I think there is a renewed realization that mental health services are indeed critical, both for the people who require those services and for the general public who can be victimized by people who are mentally ill and who are not being given appropriate medication. I noticed the other day that there was a new program to try and identify these people, especially those who may have violent tendencies, that the mayor is focusing on that. One of the things that I've pushed very hard over the last number of years is to improve and increase mental health services in our schools, because those services are very important for young people. It's important for allowing young people to learn, because if you're afflicted by mental distress, you're not going to be able to learn. It also is important to deal with young people who have mental problems, because they can be disruptive, they can make it difficult for other kids to learn. And I think that every school should have both a physical health clinic and a mental health clinic in the school. We have a number of schools that have it, but it's a small percentage of the total schools. We have a clinic of that sort, for instance, at DeWitt Clinton High School. We were talking about that before. Several other schools in my district. I would like to see a clinic in every school. Every place where it is, I go visit the schools on frequent occasions. And every place I go, I say to the principal, where they have the clinic, I say, do you think this is a valuable service? They all say it's a tremendous service. We just opened a wonderful new clinic with Columbia Presbyterian Hospital at the Kennedy campus. It's terrific. It's heavily utilized. All sorts of services. They have physical health services. They have a dental clinic. They have mental health services. They have counseling services. It's a terrific thing. And the kids who go to that school benefit from it, and the community benefits from it. And we ought to do more of that. The Department of Education is moving in that direction, but not nearly enough. And I'm hoping that the emphasis on mental health coming out of the tragedy of Newtown will stimulate more development of those services in our schools particularly, and in the society generally.
And serving as that chairman, let's talk about prior to Newtown. Did you feel a sense of apathy when it came to dealing with mental illness on the part of the public as well as those who had the power?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say that there wasn't sufficient commitment to providing the services that we ought to provide. But I wouldn't say apathy. I think there's a general realization that a large number of people at one point or another in their lives need counseling services, need mental health services, and occasionally need medications. And we have all kinds of medications now that can in fact be helpful. They can be abused, it's true, but they can be enormously helpful. You know, we used to have, if we look back 20, 30 years, we locked up people in these mental institutions. They never came out. They were oftentimes abused or neglected. We don't have that so much anymore. Most of those old mental institutions have closed. We now have many, many people who were formerly put in these facilities for their lives, living in the community, living in group residences, able to function, able to do work, able to enjoy themselves. So we've made great progress, especially with medications, but not enough.
Still more to be done. And Councilman Oliver Capel, thank you for joining us once again and sharing with us. Councilman Oliver Capel, District 11. Once again, we want to tell you, if you want to get to that public hearing tomorrow at the DeWitt Clinton High School, that you can actually make your voice heard. And as you heard the councilman say, it could make a difference. So join him tomorrow at DeWitt Clinton High School campus, building X440. That's 100 West Mosholu Parkway South, Bronx, New York, 6 p.m. Public hearing on DeWitt Clinton's future.
Thank you for announcing.
No problem, and we want you to stay with us because we've got to take a quick break. But coming up, we'll get you some tips on how to be heart healthy. That's right, heart healthy when we return.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
College is hard. Down. Those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darks there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future.
My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live united for education. Give, advocate, volunteer.
go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
My name's Brandon. I'm 9 years old, being alcoholic.
Hi, Brandon.
I'll start drinking with the older kids. And whatever they do, I'll do.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults. So start talking before they start drinking.
I know it'll start with alcohol. I'm just not sure how it's gonna end.
And welcome back to Open. Darren Jaime here with you. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, killing about 600,000 Americans annually. February is American Heart Month, and today we have Dr. Danny Goldstein, Vice Chairman of Cardiovascular and Thoracic Surgery at the Montefiore Einstein Center for Heart and Vascular Care, to discuss here how we can stay healthy and fight these numbers. And Dr. Goldstein, welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you, Darren.
When we talk about heart disease, we talk about it's the #1 killer in the United States. And many times for many people, it goes undetected until it's too late.
That's correct, Darren. It is not only #1 killer in the United States, but in the Western world. I think one of the big problems with heart disease is people don't know how to recognize the symptoms. There's a big misconception that heart disease is a disease of men. Wrong. Half of those deaths that you discovered, that you just announced, 600,000, is actually in women. So about 300,000 of those deaths occur in women. So what are the symptoms? This is a key point for your viewers to understand the symptoms of heart disease. And they are, by the way, this is a heart. February is Valentine's month also.
Right.
That's not the heart.
Right.
This is the heart. This is the heart. Chest pain or chest discomfort, the feeling of an elephant sitting in your chest. That's a key typical symptom that should prompt a call to an emergency hotline. Shortness of breath. Not like the asthma type of shortness of breath, a new type of shortness of breath you haven't experienced before. Pain radiating to your jaw, your neck, down your arms, particularly the left arm. Nausea, lightheadedness, cold sweats. These are all potential symptoms of a heart attack or heart disease.
So when you look around, we find that a heart attack strikes every 34 seconds in America?
That's right. By the time you and I are done talking, 20 people will have heart attack in the United States and 10 will be dead from heart disease. It's really eye-opening, isn't it?
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
So I guess the whole thing is people have to have a sense of awareness, and you know, we think that it's for specific people. You're outlining and you're helping people understand it could be anybody, with death tolls ranging at 600,000 per year. What can a person do in order to guard themselves against heart disease?
The good question. So the most important thing is to understand who's at risk for getting heart disease. For a 22-year-old who's an athlete at Lehman College is very unlikely to get heart disease. When we talk about heart disease, we're talking particularly about coronary artery disease. Coronary artery disease are really the arteries that feed the heart muscle. And when you get blockages in those arteries, that's when we talk about coronary artery disease. Now, what causes blockages in those arteries? There's 5 things we know. High blood pressure, which is extremely common in the Hispanic and African American population here in the Bronx. And it's a silent killer. You don't walk around and your body tells you, I have high blood pressure. It's something you have to check, your doctor has to check. High cholesterol. Cholesterol is a bad molecule that we produce in our livers, but we also ingest, fatty foods, etc. Smoking. Diabetes, which is also epidemic in the Bronx among the minority communities. And a family history of heart disease. If mom or dad or brothers or sisters have had heart disease, particularly on the age of 50, you're more likely to have heart disease. So if you heard any of those 5 things, you have any of those things going in your life, you should be aware that you're at a high risk of having coronary artery disease, and you should do something about it. Smoking is easy. Stop smoking. Stop hanging around people who smoke. If you're diabetic, you should be seeing a primary care physician routinely, and your sugar should be checked before and after every meal. This is pretty standard stuff. High blood pressure, the silent killer. You should be on medication, and you should have a plan with your doctor, checking your blood pressure on a routine basis. High blood pressure not only causes heart disease, it causes strokes, it causes renal disease. So it's really a bad player. Lack of physical activity is another one that leads to obesity. There's things we do every day that we can change. We love to press that button on the elevator. Stop taking the elevator. If you have to go less than 3 or 4 floors, walk up. Escalators, same thing, walk up. If it's cold out, go to the mall and take a walk. So just physical activity itself can be a great deterrent towards obesity and heart disease.
When you look at the numbers are really staggering. It's the leading cause of death for most ethnicities. African Americans at 24.5%, Hispanics at 20.8%, whites at 20%. And it says the cost of heart disease is more than $108 billion annually each year. Those are some real staggering numbers.
Yeah, that's more than you and I get paid together.
That's right. That's right. For a few years. What do we talk about in terms of, people who are out there and they want to get some more information about this? What do they do? I mean, they could always go see their primary care physician, of course.
Which everybody should do. And that's a big problem, particularly in the Bronx, where the emergency room tends to be your primary care physician. We got to get away from that. Everybody, now that health insurance is going to become universal, everybody should have coverage, and everybody should have a primary care physician that knows you well, that you see on a routine basis, they can control your medications, and really preventive care so you don't show up all of a sudden, nobody knows you, you show up in an emergency room, you have to wait in line. The our Montefiore healthcare system, which I come from, is the second busiest emergency room in the country. Fall after Cook Hospital in Chicago. There's people lying 6 deep.
Right.
That's not the kind of environment where you'd like to have your healthcare if you can help it. So an intimate relationship with a primary care physician, either a family doctor or internal medicine doctor, is key for heart disease prevention, for asthma prevention, for the ills that most people are at risk for in this population.
When you talk about Montefiore, you guys have a lot of services that you actually provide in dealing with that. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Montefiore is the only really academic health center in the Bronx area. There's other hospitals. We're known for clinical trials, innovative therapies. In terms of Heart Health Month, we have a lot of initiatives going on. We have educational talks, which are open and free to the public. We have healthcare screenings where we check blood pressure. We'll draw some blood to check your cholesterol. We have Zumba dances where we encourage people to become aerobic by doing exercise, and it's a very fun environment. We teach you how to cook and how to eat right. So there's a lot of things going on at Montefiore, and we're the leading center in terms of prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of heart disease in the area.
And when you talk about healthy living, that's got to be major, particularly for us in the borough, because we deal a lot with obesity. We deal a lot with the high asthma rates and things like that. So when you look at where we are in terms of the disproportionate numbers compared to the rest of the city and even across the country, there has to be a heavy emphasis right here in our borough.
Absolutely. This is the #1 borough for heart failure, for diabetes, for obesity, and for hypertension.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty major stuff there. So throughout the course of the month, you'll be going around and educating?
I certainly hope so, and this is our first step. With the wide audience of BronxNet and your show, we hope to make an impact, particularly with your audience in terms of what we can do. Recognize the symptoms of heart disease, understand you need to have a primary care physician as part of your life. Particularly if you're in one of those high-risk categories, you have high cholesterol, you have diabetes, you have blood pressure, you're obese, you should be in touch with a primary care physician to guide you through maintaining a healthy heart.
It's amazing. You talked about high cholesterol and what that plays in the fact of heart disease. But it's amazing also to know that many people don't even know what their cholesterol level is because they haven't been to a doctor, or given the fact of no health insurance. With things changing, do you think that we're going to see an increase in people actually taking better care of themselves and getting themselves to a doctor?
I certainly hope so. And you should be able to quote your weight and your height just like you should be able to quote your cholesterol level. And then, there's bad cholesterols and good cholesterols. Bad cholesterols are the ones that cause these plaques in the coronary arteries that cause blockages and heart attacks. Where does cholesterol come from? Food you eat. And
such as, you got an idea? Give us.
Take a guess, Darren.
Eggs.
Eggs have good stuff and bad stuff to them, the fast foods.
Right.
The oils, you shouldn't be frying in oils. If you're going to use oil, use olive oil. Avoid fried foods altogether. High intake of fruits, vegetables, fishes with omega-3 fatty acids, which are quite healthy. Just common sense. Don't eat a steak every day. Don't have a cheeseburger and bacon every day. That's just not good for you.
Right. And many people will say, you just cut into my diet big time.
Well, the fast food industry has been very successful in creating food that's tasty and that is cheap.
Right.
And hence, populations are attracted to it. particularly if they don't have the knowledge of what they can cause in the long term.
Well, I think a lot of people now in New York City have taken to heart the fact that you can actually look and see about how many calories when you go to a fast food joint, exactly how much you're going to be intaking. And for some people, they push back, and other people they just don't care. But
that's right.
I guess when it comes to the issue of your heart, though, you got to care because your heart is your life.
That's absolutely right.
So we want to make sure that people are involved. And as we said, it is Heart Awareness Month, and we want to make sure that you get the necessary information. Now, where can people go? Websites or anything like that, if they want to find out more information?
So if you just press heart on the internet and you go to Google, you'll probably have too many, 30, 40 million entries. Montefiore, which is within easy access to everybody in the Bronx, has its own website, www.montefiore.org. Mm-hmm. We have a Twitter handle, and we have a Facebook page as well. But if you just press in heart disease or coronary artery disease or fatty foods, anything you want, the beauty of living in this age is the access to information we have with the internet. So anything you want is really there.
Is there an optimum time that you need to really start paying particular attention to your heart? For instance, we've got other things where they say, this is the age that you need to be looking for this. Is there an optimum time?
Great question, Darren. And it also much depends on your risk factor profile. Mm-hmm. So again, if your dad or your mom had a heart attack before the age of 50, if you're obese, if you have known high blood pressure, if you're diabetic, you have known high cholesterol, all those things move the curve to an earlier age. Heart disease in general, when we talk about coronary artery disease, is rare, very rare under the age of 40. Mm-hmm. I think by the time you're 40, you should be seeing a primary care physician at least once a year, get a routine cholesterol level, check your blood sugar to make sure you're not diabetic, engage in an exercise program,